It all started with a big decision from Washington. The United States slapped heavy tariffs, import duties, on cars coming from Mexico and Canada. This was no small step. It was the loud trumpet of Donald Trump's America First slogan. Trump and his economic nationalist allies were shouting, "We'll take American manufacturing back to the top. We'll make Detroit's car factories shine again." The goal sounded grand, but this sword's aim went astray, straight into Japan's heart. These tariffs weren't ordinary duties. Their real target was Japan's automobile giants, Toyota, Honda, Nissan, and Mazda. Why? Because these companies have massive factories in Mexico and Canada. These plants weren't built in secret. Japanese companies spent billions of dollars to stay close to America, making affordable and top-notch cars. Whether it's Toyota's plants in Mexico or Honda's factories in Ontario, Canada, these were all to meet American customers' needs. But Washington, in one swoop, targeted these factories. The tariffs tried to break the backbone of these Japanese companies, and Tokyo was in an uproar. Adding fuel to the fire was a statement from Trump. He declared to the world, "Japan sells millions of cars in America, but American car sales in Japan? Zero. Zilch." This statement was nothing less than a slap in Japan's face. In Tokyo, it wasn't just seen as a false accusation, but as a declaration of one-sided trade policy. It raised a question for Japan. We invested so much in your market, and this is what we get in return? This wasn't just about money, it was the breaking of trust. Japanese automobile companies have been ruling American roads for decades. Toyota's Camry, Honda's Civic, Nissan's Altima. These cars are part of American life. By building factories in Mexico and Canada, these companies not only cut costs, but also provided millions of American jobs. But Trump's policy put all this at risk in one blow. Japanese officials and businessmen in Tokyo were stunned. Had America turned its most trusted ally into an enemy? This question didn't stay confined to boardrooms. It shook Japan's strategic thinking. In reality, Trump's policy aimed to save the American car industry, but it mistakenly targeted Japan. America thought tariffs would make Detroit's companies like Ford and GM shine again. But the truth was that Japanese companies held over 35% of the American market. Without them, American roads would be empty. The tariffs made Japanese cars more expensive, but customers still waited for them. The result? America's gamble started backfiring, and Japan began preparing a countermove. This was just the beginning. Japan quietly turned its factories, research labs, and global partnerships into weapons. Toyota, Honda, and Nissan resolved to respond to America with new technology and clever strategies. This war was no longer just about cars. It was about future technology and global dominance. So, will Japan's silent move succeed, or will America come up with a new trick? Only time will tell. But one thing's for sure. This trade drama is about to get even more thrilling. When Washington swung the tariff sword on Japanese cars coming from Mexico and Canada, Tokyo fell silent. But this wasn't the silence of defeat. It was the calm before the storm. Japan decided, no shouting, no counter tariffs. Instead, Toyota, Honda, and Nissan's giants dove into their research labs, factories, and global networks. Their strategy was clear. If you make our path tough, we'll make our cars so essential you'll feel our absence. And that's when Japan's strategic counterattack began. Automobile Company's Master Plan. Toyota's Ace Card. Toyota slammed the brakes on production in Mexico and Canada and launched a new hybrid engine line in Japan on turbo mode. This line was for the global market. As if Toyota said, "Impose tariffs, we'll conquer the world with our tech." Honda's clever move. Honda shifted focus from Mexico and Canada, revving up production in Southeast Asian countries like Thailand. They also accelerated work on next-gen battery tech, as if saying, "We'll build future cars, you just watch." Nissan's game-changer Nissan launched affordable battery-powered compact cars to woo you middle-class American buyers. These cars were so cost-effective and powerful that American companies were left gaping. This wasn't overnight magic. Since 2018, Japan had been anticipating Trump's trade policies. They had already started diversifying their supply chain, and now that plan was paying off. Japanese companies were already leaders in hybrid and electric vehicle (EV) technology. Toyota's solid-state battery, Nissan's all-electric lineup, and Honda's battery development. These were making Japan the superstar of the future. Government's secret operation Tokyo's government didn't sit idle either. The Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry, METI, started secret meetings with automobile companies. The goal? Understand the tariffs' impact and craft a counter-strategy. The mood was serious, but charged. METI supported companies to shift production and boost investment in new tech. Japan also played another card. The Ministry of Finance hinted at a slight cut in U.S. Treasury bond purchases. It wasn't a big drama, but the message to Washington was clear. Our trust in you is wavering. On the diplomatic front, Japan deepened ties with the European Union and Southeast Asian countries, especially aligning EV tech with global emission standards. This was Japan's global master plan. Japan didn't make noise or impose counter-tariffs. Instead, they weaponized their strengths: innovation, reliability, and global networks. They reduced reliance on Mexico, Canada, and expanded partnerships in Vietnam, Thailand, Indonesia. It was as if Japan said, "Tariffs are yours. The game is ours." This counterattack wasn't just a response to tariffs. It was a plan to win the future war. Japan showed that real power isn't in shouting, but in quietly stealing the show. Their cars, tech, and strategy were screaming, "We're ready. Where are you?" When Washington bombarded Mexico and Canada's car imports with tariffs, it seemed like a game-changer for Detroit. The America First slogan echoed, with dreams of Ford and GM ruling the roads again. But hold on, this master plan flopped so badly that Washington was left stunned. The tariffs targeted Japanese giants, Toyota, Honda, Nissan, Mazda, but ended up breaking America's own back. This was a war where America scored a goal in its own net. Japanese cars are queens of American roads. Toyota's Camry, Honda's Civic, Nissan's Altima. These cars hold over 35% of the market. Why? Because they're reliable, affordable, and fuel efficient. Tariffs made these cars pricier, but customers didn't turn to American cars. Dealerships ran short of Japanese models. Prices soared and wait times grew. Yet American buyers kept waiting for Japanese cars. This was Washington's first shock. The customers' hearts belonged to Japan. The tariffs aimed to bring American jobs, but instead, jobs were at risk. Japanese companies provide millions of U.S. jobs in dealerships, parts suppliers, and logistics. Tariffs shook them all. In Michigan, small suppliers feared dwindling orders. In Texas, home to Toyota's North American headquarters, warnings of economic loss rang out. In California, the dream of electric cars blurred. It was as if America punched a hole in its own economy. American auto companies like Ford and GM lagged in this war. Why? Because they bet on trucks and SUVs, sidelining compact and hybrid cars. But rising fuel prices and strict emission rules pulled customers toward hybrids and EVs, the field where Japan reigned. Toyota's Prius, Honda's hybrids, and Nissan's electric cars were dusting American firms. Detroit just watched the show. Washington thought tariffs would make "Made in America" a reality. But the auto industry is a global web. Japanese companies were so deeply rooted in America that attacking them was like hurting oneself. Tariffs not only harmed Japanese factories, but also wounded American suppliers, dealerships, and logistics firms. This was the blunder that punctured Trump's plan. Meanwhile, Japan seized the moment. They shifted production from Mexico, Canada to Japan and Southeast Asia. Toyota ramped up hybrid investment. Nissan launched affordable EVs, and Honda changed the game with battery tech. Japanese cars became even more appealing, and American buyers stayed hooked. This was Japan's response. They didn't fight, they won. Tariffs exposed America's weaknesses. Japanese firms showed that real strength lies in tech, trust, and customers' hearts. Washington must now rethink what's the next move, because Japan has shifted gears and raced miles ahead. When America fired tariff cannons at Japanese cars, it wasn't just a Washington-Tokyo fight. It became a global auto industry showdown. Japanese giants like Toyota, Honda, Nissan on one side, and America's Made in America boasts on the other. But this war didn't just shake these two nations. It reshaped the entire world's car industry. This is the story of the electric car race, Japan's smart moves, and the challenges staring America in the face. The world has moved beyond petrol-diesel cars. Electric vehicles, EVs, aren't the future. They're today's reality. And in this race, Japan is already in pole position. Toyota's solid-state battery, Nissan's all-electric lineup, and Honda's battery tech. These are making Japan the superhero of the EV world. Tariffs jolted Japan, but they turned it into an opportunity. They sharpened their tech and tightened their grip on the global market. It was as if Japan said, "Tariffs are yours, but the EV world is ours." Japan didn't just focus on America. They spread their supply chain globally. Cutting reliance on Mexico and Canada, they boosted partnerships in Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia. These countries offer low costs and friendlier trade rules. Honda's factories in Thailand shifted into high gear, while new partnerships in Vietnam picked up speed. Japan also teamed up with the European Union, aligning its EV tech with strict global emission standards. The result? Japan not only held its ground in the US market, but emerged as a global leader. Meanwhile, America's tariff plan proved a flop show. Tariffs made Japanese cars costlier, but US firms like Ford and GM couldn't capitalize. Why? Because they were busy with trucks and SUVs, while customers ran toward hybrids and EVs. Detroit's firms lagged miles behind Japan in tech and innovation. Tariffs didn't save US jobs, but harmed suppliers, dealerships, and logistics firms. Michigan, Texas, and California sounded alarms of economic risk. This was when America saw its weaknesses laid bare. Japan's cleverness redrew the auto industry's map. Japanese car exports from Mexico and Canada dropped, but hybrid and EV shipments from Japan and Southeast Asia surged. US dealerships faced Japanese car shortages, pushing prices up, yet customers stayed loyal. Japan hammered its marketing. Our cars are reliable, affordable, and future-ready. Meanwhile, Japan strengthened its global trade grip, making things tougher for America. This war isn't over. The EV race will get fiercer, and Japan, with its tech edge, is ready to lead. Will America learn from its mistakes and bounce back? Or will Japan's smart strategies take it further ahead? This is a global show where every move counts. When Washington fired tariff cannons at Japanese cars, Tokyo didn't make a fuss. No press conferences, no counter-tariff noise. Instead, Japan turned its factories, research labs, and global networks into weapons. Their strategy was clear. Wars aren't won by shouting, but by cunning. Giants like Toyota, Honda, Nissan launched a counterattack that not only stunned America, but made the world bow to Japan's might. This was the epitome of quiet but lethal strategy. Japan didn't choose counter-tariffs or Washington bashing. Instead, they polished their strengths: innovation, reliability, and customer trust. Toyota put hybrid production in Japan on turbo mode. Nissan won middle-class American hearts with cheap electric cars. Honda accelerated next-gen battery tech. It was as if Japan said, "Impose tariffs, we'll grab the market with our quality." Their cars became more appealing, affordable, and futuristic. Japan didn't just tackle the immediate crisis, they planned to win the future war. Reducing reliance on Mexico and Canada, they boosted partnerships in Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia. These countries' low costs and flexible trade rules gave Japan a new boost. Diplomatic ties with the European Union linked their EV tech to global standards. This was Japan's long-term vision: win today's fight, secure tomorrow's crown. Japan's government wasn't idle either. The Ministry of Economy, Trade, and Industry, METI, held secret meetings with auto firms, crafting strategies. The Finance Ministry hinted at cutting U.S. Treasury bond purchases, signaling to Washington, "We trust your dollar less." Japan's marketing was stellar too. They told American buyers, "Our cars aren't just vehicles, they're a promise of trust and the future." Some firms absorbed tariff costs, offering special financing to keep prices in check. Japan not only saved its 35% U.S. market share, but shone brighter globally. Their EVs and hybrids took over the world. A Japanese official put it this way: "Our goal wasn't to put out the fire, but to stop it from reaching the engine." And Japan did it brilliantly. They shifted production, boosted tech investment, and strengthened Asian partnerships. This was their quiet strength, winning without making a sound. Japan showed that real victory isn't in flexing muscle, but in smart strategy and winning hearts. America paid the price for tariffs, while Japan quietly snatched the auto industry's crown. This story isn't over. Japan will race faster in the EV game, and the world awaits the next twist. This was Japan's quiet strength, where tariff swords were answered with cunning, innovation, and future thinking. Toyota, Honda, Nissan not only saved the US market, but showed the world their might in the electric car race. America learned its mistakes, but the question remains: will Washington bounce back, or will Japan become the undisputed king of the EV world? This war isn't over, so whose side are you on? Japan's silent moves or America's loud hustle? Comment below and stay tuned for the next twist.